to scale a community manager's playbook to building engagement. Very popular topic. This is by far our most popular webinar we've ever hosted. We have over 400 registrants for this one. So there's a small conference gathering for this webinar right now. So we'll let people roll in and then we're gonna get started in just a minute. Why don't we get started for now by just doing a really quick introduction. So today you'll have me speaking along with the CEO of Mobilize, Sharon Savariego. Did I get it right?
Thank you, David. Yes, that's awesome.
She was trying to
Hi,
teach me
everyone.
before the webinar started and I still messed it up, but I tried.
Everyone, excited to be here.
So I'm David Spinks. I'm the CEO of CMX. I've been building community since I was a little kid. Started doing it professionally about 10 years ago. Started meeting hundreds of other community professionals who are also doing this work, but no one was really talking to each other, and there weren't a ton of resources available to community professionals. So we started CMX about 3.5 years ago, and we started with CMX Summit, our big conference, and had an amazing response, and just started building it out from there. We've now had 7 conferences, our 8th coming up soon. And we're just working every day to provide content like this and share all the smart people that we find in the industry and share the work that they're doing and the frameworks that they're sharing. So we're really excited today to have one of the top experts in the field and someone who knows both how to build products in this space, how to look at the business side of community, and then of course today what we're going to talk about is around building engagement in the community. So thanks so much for joining us today, Sharon.
Thank you so much, David, for this introduction. Hi, everyone. I'm Sharon. I'm the CEO and co-founder of Mobilize. I've always been passionate about communities and also mainly about the leaders who run these communities. I've started my career in running political and social movements and was involved in running communities then for on-demand and tech communities. So I've seen all different types of communities and that passion and experience basically also showed me the technological gap in the market for relevant tools that will help community leaders build their communities and communicate with their members. And that's why I've started Mobilize about 2.5 years ago. Mobilize is an all-in-one solution that helps community leaders in every stage, size, and type of community. And we work with anyone from the United Nations and Microsoft all the way to small clubs and professional networks. And we help them organize, communicate, and engage their members. Super excited to be here, super excited to be part of the CMX community for many years and learning from David as an expert. And now combining all of our thoughts and sharing with you kind of like the insights of seeing so many communities and what makes them successful.
Awesome, thanks so much, Sharon. So just a couple housekeeping notes before we get started here. We're going to be speaking for about 40 minutes here, and then we're going to open it up for Q&A. So you can post questions right here. If you're in the Zoom webinar, you can post questions right here in the Q&A, and we'll check that out. We're also streaming live on Facebook, and we're watching that comment stream as well. So for those of you watching on Facebook, you can comment with questions or thoughts or ideas. We'd love for it to be more of a conversation. We're going to have plenty of time, about 20 minutes at the end, to do Q&A, which always ends up being some of the best parts of the actual webinar. So stick around. We're at close to 100 people tuned in right now already on the webinar itself. So welcome to everybody who's tuning in. Like I said, we have about 400 people registered for this webinar, so it's going to be a big one. And if you're going to tweet about this or share anything online, the hashtag is #CMXWebinar. All right, so you can use that hashtag to also have the conversation on Twitter or wherever else you want to use that hashtag. All right, how you feel, Sharon? Should we get started? All right, let's do it. So we're gonna go 3 sections here. The first one I'm going to run, that's gonna be about the community engagement cycle. I'm gonna walk you through one of our models for how you can shape your community engagement plans and strategy. And then we're going to pass it off to Sharon to talk about the network management model, which is a little bit more from your perspective, from the community builder's perspective. What are the different pieces that you want to have in place in order to have a cohesive engagement strategy, whether you're starting or you're scaling up your community. And then we're going to open it up for Q&A. All right, so let's just dive right in. So the community engagement cycle, it's really, really simple. It's 4 steps: identity, trust, participation, and reward. And we came up with this model to basically help you understand from the member's perspective, what is the experiences somebody's going through as they're moving through a community and as they're becoming more and more engaged in a community. And I'm going to walk you through this, and I'm going to give you a couple examples. But the 4 steps are really simple, and just explain what they are in the context of this model. We have the first one is identity. And so we all have our own personal identities. And then there's the shared identity that forms amongst a group. So when I first join a community, that first round that I'm going through this cycle, I just identify, say that group's also interested in the things that I'm interested in. And then over time, as I go through this cycle over and over again, my level of shared identity, how closely I identify with the other members of the community, will increase over time. The second step is trust. I may identify with a group of people, but unless I trust them, unless I trust that by participating in this community, I'm going to get value, I'm not going to participate. And over time, if I become a strong member of a community, and then at some point that trust is violated, maybe leadership makes decisions that go against what I believe, or I lose trust in other members, then I'm going to become a less engaged member of the community. But if you're going through the cycle over and over again and you're building your engagement over time, your level of trust in your community and the other members of that community is going to increase. The third step is participation. People have to actually participate in order to start to form those relationships. Participation can take a lot of forms. When you're first joining a community, maybe you're just passive and you're just kind of observing and reading and consuming. And then over time, your participation will increase and increase and increase, all the way up to the point where you're becoming a leader in the community. You're taking whether you're a power user or you're organizing experiences, you're becoming a leader in the community and participating in a much deeper way. And then finally, you have reward. Just like any habit cycle, the reward is what tells your brain that this was a good experience. I want to come back to this community and I want to participate again. Those rewards can be intrinsic, so it can be coming from yourself, right? I just want to give back. I want to feel like I belong. I want to feel happy. Or it could be extrinsic. It could be validation, reputation. It could be money sometimes. It can be gifts. And if you have the right rewards, and as people participate in your community, they're feeling that they get that satisfaction, that reinforces the cycle, that increases their level of identity, that shared identity. Now they trust the community more, they'll participate in greater ways, and then receive greater and greater rewards. And so around it goes as they move up the curve. And so to put it into context, say you were going to launch a new community, you can use this as a model. So first, step 1 is to define that member identity and find the potential founding members who would align with that identity that you're creating in your community. Step 2 would be to get their buy-in. If you don't already have the buy-in of potential members, say you wanted to build a community around AI and you don't know anyone in AI, step 2, getting their buy-in needs to be going and having coffee with people, starting to have conversations, building that trust one-on-one until you develop that network of trust. Now you want to actually get them to participate in some way. So you want to bring them together. Maybe you organize a dinner, maybe you organize a kickoff event, something intimate, ideally in person, that will allow that foundation of relationship to form. And then hopefully they got an intrinsic reward from participating there, but you can reinforce that by making them feel really invested in the community and give them an opportunity to help grow it. So you can say, if you enjoyed this dinner, we're going to do it again in 2 weeks. But it's highly curated. We're not inviting everybody, but it's up to you to like choose who's the right people here. So, you know, we're giving each of you the opportunity to invite one person, or maybe you ask for their feedback on the community and see how you can improve it. Figure out different ways to make them feel rewarded for participating in that first experience, which should reinforce that identity. And now you're repeating it. They bring a friend next time, and now your community goes from 10 people to 20 people to 40 people, and so on and so on. And each time a new member joins, they're starting through this cycle again and then moving up over time. And so to put in an actual example, say you wanted to define these 4 things for the Wikipedia community, which of course has different levels, right? We have readers, we have people who are contributing. We have the power users, those editors. So if we're looking at just the editor level, You have the identity, so they're actually called editors. They're the people who edit and improve the articles on the platform. The trust that they get from that community, obviously they develop trust with each other, but they also have very strict rules and guidelines for how to contribute and what's going to be accepted. And so they trust that if they contribute, it's part of the system that other people are also a part of. Right, so they define what that trust looks like for that level of community. Participation, they're editing those articles and they're also interacting in online communities with other editors. And then the reward for many people who are these editors, they'll tell you that the real reward is just they want to contribute to a platform that's spreading knowledge and helping the world. So it's a very intrinsic, very authentic motivation. And just to shape how this looks over time, so you can imagine someone joins your community, they start as a potential member, right? That's the first level. Then they become a new member. And then once they are already in the community, they can be passive, active, or power members. And you can see how as you move up this curve, it's just higher levels of those 4 steps of identity, trust, participation, and reward. That cycle is essentially rolling people up the curve. But if you lose that shared identity, if you lose that trust, if you're not able to get people to participate or they stop feeling a reward, they will literally roll back down this curve and become less engaged in the community or actually roll off and become inactive. All right, so you can use this as a mental framework for shaping how you build your community. And then to put it into practice, what we have is our engagement table here. So you can map out your entire community. So look at your potential members and map out what is the identity that they have. Why do they trust our community? How are they going to participate in the community? And then what is the reward that they're getting? You can do that for your new members. You can do that for your passive members, active members, and power members. And what you'll realize is even though you have this one community, you have many different kinds of people who are expecting different kinds of engagement. They're experiencing the community in different ways, and you can curate the experience for each of these levels by mapping out those 4 steps. And we actually have downloadable versions of this. If you just go to CMX and you search for the community engagement cycle, you can download this table so you can fill it out yourself for your community and use it just as a mapping tool to help you wrap your head around what is the experience that our members are going through as they become more deeply engaged members of our community. All right, so if you have any questions about this, we'll open up for questions in the end. But now I'm going to hand it off to Sharon to start digging into the network management model, which will kind of help you understand, now that you understand the perspective of the member, now what are you creating to actually feel this experience? And I'm going to be flipping the slides for you here, Sharon, so just let me know when you're ready.
Thank you, David. So first of all, I want to say I'm a big fan of the engagement and commitment models that you presented. We recommend a lot of our customers to look at that when they really try to build the onboarding process and the member journey process. I want to take now these models and kind of like translate them into the manager side. As a community manager, what are the practical steps and stages that I should go through in order to build an engaged community? So a lot of what I will show now, and David, if you can move to the next slide, please. A lot of what I will show now is based on the experience of our own customers. So we've seen firsthand a variety of community types and the impact that they can have on their businesses and organizations. And you can think about it all the way from tech companies and their community managers to marketplaces and their sellers, global brands and their ambassadors. Community has a lot of different type of contributors, and it's all about really understanding the steps that you're taking your members, but also the steps that you as a manager need to go through. So looking at, David, if you can move to the next slide, all of those communities, it doesn't matter if they're business driven or if they're professional networks, etc. While they have different types of participation and goals, what we've seen that is common between all of them is basically the stage that they took in order to build their network. So it doesn't matter what is their maturity level and evolution process, you can see these steps, and we call it the snowball framework. And we basically think about it as an evolution of a community and how you should look at it as a community admin and manager. So we broke the processes that we've seen into 5 main stages: recruiting, training, operations, belonging, and scale. And we recommend that each one of you, when you build your strategy, it doesn't matter if you're already managing a really thriving community and are thinking about next steps to scale, or if you're just at the beginning, go through those stages and just try to see what is your strategy for each one of the stages. Because some of you are maybe just in the ideation part and are trying to understand, how do I start to recruit people? And some of you are maybe trying to think, how do I take my community to the next level? So probably each one of you will relate to a different step. Stage 1, as you can see here, is all about recruiting, understanding the identity of your members, as David mentioned, and figuring out how do you actually get them to join your community. And we'll talk about the best practices to do that. Then it's all about training, the stage in which you basically educate your community and your members and tell them what does it mean to be part of your community, how to participate in a meaningful way, and to become an efficient member of your community. Stage 3 is what we do on a day-to-day basis, which is basically the ongoing job of getting every member to participate and take action, and the activity of communicating with your members on an ongoing basis. And we'll talk about what are the best practices and some examples there. Belonging, this is kind of like my favorite part. This is the stage in which you turn your network of individuals into an interconnected community by creating a sense of belonging between them and connecting them to one another and to you as a brand. And eventually, if you're really successful and your community is already running in a good way, now it's all about scaling. It's all about finding the right individuals that will help you take your community to the next level and empowering those community leaders to help you scale and amplify your reach. David, if you can move to the next slide. So think about the first stage, right? Like, you probably already decided that you want to start your community, or you decided you want to get more members into your community. Going into the identity that David talked about, now you need to really build a recruiting plan. So you need to understand who are the people that you want to attract to your community and how to get them to join your community. So you need to start with a very basic step of just identifying and building a persona. It's a very common practice in the product management world, but you can also do that in the community space. You can basically think about, what is the profile of my member? Everything from age range, location, interest, industry that they're part of, their roles, their area of expertise. You really need to understand what is the unique combination of traits that makes them a perfect member. Now, once you understand that profile, you also need to understand, well, where those people are located, where do they hang out, what forums or blogs do they read, what hashtags do they follow on Twitter, where can you find them, and how can you reach out to them in order to invite them to join your community. Now, to go into kind of like more technicalities, this is exactly the moment in which you kind of like build the form and the registration forms in order to invite them to join you. So now that you know where they are, and they can also just be your customers, and maybe you already have their contact details, now you need to build a meaningful way to onboard and register them. Think about it as the gateway into your community. What is the best way to create a live member directory that kind of like will help you get all of those amazing members into one location? So when you build your form, separate it into a few parts. First of all, basic information, all the profile details that you kind of built before. Now go and take that and build it into the registration form. Ask them all of this information so they can share with you what is their topic of interest, or where are they from, etc. Then include also the details about their motivations. Why do they want to be part of this community? This way, all of the questions will help you understand more about them, and also to help you kind of like really understand who to communicate with and when. So to segment even your own members into different groups and programs. Now you can go and share that registration form in your newsletter and social media as an exclusive invitation, so you can start onboarding people. Now, one of the most important parts of recruiting, and going back again to what David referred to as trust, of one of like the most important part of recruiting is really understanding the motivations. What drive your members to participate? How do they want to be involved? Why do they want to be part of your community? What do they want to be regarded as experts? Do they want to make money as brand ambassadors or influencers? Do they want to just connect with like-minded people? That information will help you really attract them to your community to begin with, but then also to reward them throughout their journey of being a member. So that's one of the key steps, kind of like of figuring out who are your members, finding them out, finding them and onboarding them. Next slide. Docker is one of my favorite examples for a really amazing recruiting process. Maybe you're familiar with Docker. It's a tech company. It has an amazing technology. It has only 250 employees, yet they are running over 270 meetups in over 70 countries. Now, that's an insane number. Think about like, how do they actually get to operate all of those meetups? The secret behind that, the secret to their success is basically the fact that they kind of like opened a gateway for all the people that love their technology and love their brand and want to become experts in their industry, and allow them to register on an ongoing basis. So they created an evergreen registration form, and they're sharing it everywhere, on their site, on newsletters, in blogs, in events. They're giving a way to people to share their interest, to show their interest and join the community on an ongoing basis. In the form, they ask them everything from basic information, matching the profile that they've created before, all the way to asking them, how do you want to be involved? Do you want to be a speaker, a meetup organizer, a beta tester for new products, and kind of like verifying what's their motivation, who they are, so they can then redirect them to relevant subgroups and programs and communicate with them. So just think about like how many people right now they already gathered to become part of that amazing community. Next slide. So then the part of creating trust is all about training, actually. If you think about the first step, the first encounter of a community member with you. So once they get through that registration form and they became part of your community, now it's all about building your community and setting your members and yourself for success. And the way you do that is that you should create a really robust training process. So you can kind of look at it as like the member onboarding process. You should build a playbook that includes all of the information that your members need to know when they join your community. So it could be everything from frequently asked questions, documents that they need to download or that they need to even sign, guidelines, etc. It really depends on the complexity of the activity that you expect them to take. So for example, if you're creating a forum in which people just talk to each other and share information and thoughts, probably you just want to share with them upfront. And you can see here an example from our own beta product community, which is a discussion forum. You can see here guidelines that we shared with them and rules on how to engage with that community. So that's kind of like a simple training process. However, if you're asking your members to take more sophisticated actions that require them, let's say if they are brand ambassadors, to go to be on the ground, meet with people, organize meetups and events, be a reseller for you, or create content, etc. You want to basically give them a much more robust process. So that's when you want to really be thinking about like referral codes and frequently asked questions and scripts, how to talk to people, guidelines and rules, all of your team contact details, right? They need to be able to contact you when something comes up. All of that content could be shared all the way from the moment that they kind of like reach out to you for the first time, up to like training that is kind of like evolving later on in the community as a member grows and becomes more committed to your community. And it also can take a lot of different forms. So it can be an email campaign, sending them email by email, making sure that they go step by step and learn more. It could be a downloadable playbook or ebook. It could be a webinar. It could be a video tutorial that you're sharing with them. You can have tests or online meetings with them to make sure that they are going through all the steps and that they know what they need. That could really be the moment in which you're creating a lot of trust for your community. Because if you think about it, that stage creates the basic level of trust. That's the moment when your members know that as a leader, you've been setting them up for success, thinking about all the steps that they should go through, giving them all the information up front. And that will make them really, really trust you and believe in your leadership skills. Next. Prezi is one of the amazing examples of training their community members. So they are requesting from their members to actually commit a very, very sophisticated task. As you probably, most of you know Prezi, they're a presentation technology company. And now that they reach more than 75 million users, they took on the next goal of starting to grow B2B sales. That's the moment in which they reached out to their community and decided to build the Prezi Experts program. So they reached out to top freelancers and agencies that are making beautiful presentation for a living and made them a reseller, a point of contact. Now, think about that. You need to teach someone external to become your seller, to sell your product. That's why they've been using Mobilize to create a direct channel between them and their sellers and created a really robust training process, giving them all the information that they need, product offering, demos, how to new opportunities, new product insights to what's coming up next, etc. And they're training them and taking them step by step. Next. Okay, so that's the tough part of being a community manager, and that's basically the daily responsibility to make sure that everyone participate and stay engaged. So let's say that you already recruited everyone, you trained them, they know what to expect, they want to start engaging with you. Now you need to make sure that you are setting them up for success also on a day-to-day basis. And when you're designing a community, and even now if you already have an ongoing community that is thriving and succeeding, you need to go back and kind of like ask yourself, what is the business and organization goal? And what are the activities that my members need to take in order to make sure that the ROI of the community is very high? That's the moment in which you kind of like see that goal and try to reverse engineer what are all the different activities, events, and milestones that you as a manager and your members need to go through. It could basically, as we said, it could go all the way from just asking your members to become part of a discussion or to reply to people on your forum, all the way to asking your brand ambassadors to promote you on social media or to create events. That basically is kind of like the commitment curve that David talked about before. You need to understand and to build a plan with all the actions, all the activities, all the events, and all the milestones that you will ask your community to take. And now you need to organize those activities from the easiest to the hardest, because this is basically the stage in which your members are part of, right? Like the new ones will probably take the easiest task and will start there and will build more confidence. The ones that are already very committed will get into kind of like the finish line and into the hardest activities. Share that plan with your members. Tell them up front, what are the different activities that they can take? What is your milestone? By showing them the goal and the milestones, again, you're building your own leadership, because you're basically saying, I have a plan and I know what you need to do and what all of us need to do to get there. Now, obviously, once you look at those activities, you need to kind of like think about your communication plan. So for example, when we were building our own beta program for our new mobile app, we were thinking about like, okay, we need to get feedback from our customers. So first of all, we need them to download the app, right? That's a big step. Second, we need them to share feedback. We need them to reply to surveys. We need them to come up with new ideas, etc. So we started building a communication plan from the first step all the way to the most advanced activity that we asked them to take. And we built like templates of how do we communicate with them? How do we ask them to do each action? How do we track who saw our message? How, did they reply? Follow up with them, etc. Then that also what helps you to understand the channels that you want to communicate with them. How do you track your success? How do you follow up with them to make sure that they took that action? And eventually to reward them and to give them ongoing support. So you need to kind of like be thinking about the activities, communication plan, and then tools and channels. Next. So Salesforce is one of my favorite examples for an amazing developer relation program. They have over 5,000 apps on their App Exchange, and they have more and more being built every day. Now, think about it. With so many apps being built, they need to be very strategic about managing their relationships with all of these developers, and also segmenting them maybe into subgroups and programs. That's kind of like how they took their communication plan to the next level. They basically separated their groups into simple programs. They built a communication plan with all of the kind of like text that they want to send them, the routine. How often do you want to communicate with them? What do you want to communicate? Do you want to share with them perks? Do you want to give them insights into your product updates? Do you want to just provide them with one-on-one support? You need to be thinking about all those things. They've been doing that in an amazing way, kind of like laying out the communication plan in advance and making sure that every developer, every evangelist is well supported and informed. Next, we're going into belonging. So that's kind of the step in which you're creating the highest level of trust. So if you think about it, getting into the belonging stage really depends on what type of community do you have. Some communities, for example, will never want to create a social community when people talk to one another. Some would start all from the beginning by building a social community, and some would wait until their people are well engaged with them on a one-on-one basis until they connect them to one another. Most communities start as a network of people and then turn into a community. So basically, at the beginning, in most of the communities, people are not yet connected to one another, and they work and partner with you as the manager, as individuals, and have one-on-one partnerships. But the moment in which you create the sense of belonging, that's the moment in which you reach the highest level of trust and commitment. This is basically when people identify themselves by referring to your community. So if you're familiar, like there are people that basically even put on their LinkedIn, I'm a Yelp elite, or I'm a Docker expert. That's kind of like the highest type of compliment that you can get as a community manager, and you can get there. What you need to do is start to think about two different types of creating the sense of belonging. First of all, making them feel that they belong into your organization, make them feel like an insider. And the way to do that is to create shared symbols, to share swag, to share with them from the beginning your vision and mission statement so they can relate to that. Sharing with them news about your business before they go out to anyone else so they can know that they're a part of your organization. And then eventually basically kind of like making sure that they feel that they are a partner and not just like any contributor. Then the highest form of belonging is when you turn your members from individuals that work with you to individuals that are connected to one another. And you can do that by organizing events, by having an online forum, by sparking networking, basically connecting all of those unique snowflakes, if we're using the snowball model, and uniting them. Now, going into an example for belonging, we can look at Meetup. Meetup is an amazing example for creating a really strong sense of belonging. When they wanted to go through a rebrand and change their logo and their entire symbols, they didn't do that alone. They used that opportunity to create a stronger sense of belonging with their members. They basically reached out to their community and to over 65,000 meetup organizers and asked them to share feedback, to create their own symbols, to customize them. By that, they made sure that the new brand is owned by everyone. So think what a strong sense of belonging you have there. People are much more willing now to commit and to take action when they know that this is not your company. This is their community. This is their organization. And to the best part, and obviously not every community is ready for that part, but that's the moment in which you can scale your community. This is the moment in which you say, okay, my community is running smoothly, everything is okay, everyone are participating the way I want them to, but now I want to reach to new regions, new locations, I want to take new form of activities, or I have so many people, I need more people to help me support that, these activities. Now, that's the time to identify the key contributors, people that are really already leaders in your community and showing that love and brand. And then kind of like identifying them and empowering them to become leaders. So kind of like thinking about the people that can help you moderate the forums. Like you guys are, I know how busy you are, I've been there, and you're running around like helping everyone and trying to support everyone on a one-on-one basis because it's all about building authentic relationships. Now that's the stage to reach out to your community, ask for their help, because some of them will want to become leaders in your community because it will benefit them too. So think about the people that can help you moderate forums, create meetups, train new members and more, and then basically turn all of those snowflakes into a snowstorm. Now, going into the best example for that, that's Etsy. So Etsy is an amazing example for building leadership. They have over 1.7 million sellers on Etsy Marketplace, and obviously more joining every day. So they find it really challenging to support every seller and make sure that they are successful. That's why they created the Etsy Leadership Program. They reached out to top sellers, they gave them a budget and a program, and they divided them into regions, and they helped them create their own local communities. So you can see here, Rebecca. Rebecca is running the San Francisco local sellers community. She is amazing. And she grouped together over 2,200 top sellers from the area of San Francisco. And these sellers are helping one another to become good sellers. They help onboard new people. They host events. They exchange thoughts. They support each other. That's the highest form that you can get your community when you reach out to your community and empower them to take leadership. So obviously, all these amazing customers that we share, they build networks, and you've kind of like seen examples for different stages. But as you've seen, managing a network requires strategy, and it requires the right tools. And what we found throughout the years is that it's really sometimes challenging to kind of like do all these steps in one place. And that's why we designed our platform to support this workflow, this framework that we just showed you, so that you as a community manager can invest more in building relationships and less in chasing all the tools that you have and figuring out where people reply to you and what to do next. And that's why we built Mobilize, and that enables you to do every step from recruiting new members, training them, communicating on an ongoing basis, to turning them to a community. For that purpose, we combine into one product all of the tools that you need to build a successful network, starting from a robust member directory with lists and profiles, so you can easily track and build strong relationships with hundreds of thousands of people and know who they are. Then we connected all of this, next slide, to a communication center that allows you and your team to communicate at scale with your network, no matter what medium and channel you want, emails, SMS, polls, events, files, name it, we've got it, backed by full analytics, so you can know who replied, who saw your message, etc. And you can continue mobilizing them into action and get them to participate. And eventually, when you're ready, so that's next slide, you can turn your network into a real community with robust permission systems to create a sense of belonging. So that's basically kind of like helping you complete the entire framework. So whatever business goal you have, we're really happy to help you build and grow that network. And we're also happy to just help you think about that strategy. So feel free to reach out to us with any question, and we're kind of like happy to take you through that framework. Thank you guys, and can't wait to get all of your questions.
All right. Thanks so much, Sharon. And so this is both of our contact information. You can find Sharon at mobilize.io. I'm David at cmxhub.com. Sounds like we're both pretty open to you reaching out anytime if you have follow-up questions or need advice, or something doesn't get answered during this webinar that you'd like to dig into privately. Feel free to reach out. Is there anywhere else that people can find you, Sharon?
Yeah, definitely. They can just get on our site, mobilize.io, and our team is ready there to reply to them. We have a live chat going on. And other than that, just feel free to reach me at my email. Yeah.
Awesome. Cool. So we are going to now dive into Q&A, and Carrie's in the background here helping us out. Shout out to Carrie for helping us set up this amazing webinar. She's the one behind the scenes making this all actually work.
Thank you, Carrie.
Happy to do it, spreading the knowledge. Hi, everybody. Okay, so we have 3 really great questions here in the Q&A. As I mentioned on both the Facebook Live as well as here in the Zoom webinar, please bring in your questions. We'll be answering them for the next 20 minutes, so we've got plenty of time to dive in. So the first question is from Katie Sarkosh, and she asked, what are some ideas or methods to make members more comfortable with responding to one another? She says that she's working with a brand new community where users are less comfortable putting themselves out there. So how do you begin to make people feel that comfort, feel that safety of actually responding to each other as opposed to the one-to-one interaction? So David, do you want to start this one, and then Sharon, you can fill in?
Sure. This is a really great question, and it kind of gets right to the heart of a lot of the work that we do with community and trying to figure out how to build deeper, more authentic communities. It all comes down to safety, right? The reason humans seek out community is because when we are in groups, we feel more safe. That goes back to the tens of thousands of years of evolution of literally, if you weren't in a group, you were dead. And so you had to form groups, you had to belong, you had to fit in, and you had to find these communities. And so we still see this today, right? People join communities to find that sense of safety and security. And it comes down to creating a space of emotional safety. But there's a lot of challenges with doing that online. I actually asked at our community the other day if people thought that you can create really, truly deep, authentic connection online. Yeah. And there's mixed feedback there. A few things that you can think about is, one is privacy. So who else is able to see this information? Is it just for the group? Is it just for small groups? Is it for the whole community? Is it public? Can anyone else find it? So if it's public, people are going to be a lot less likely to want to be vulnerable and open. And that's the goal, right? You want people to feel safe sharing things they otherwise wouldn't share, and being open and vulnerable with each other, because that's where they're really going to develop that trust. Another thing you can do is think about guidelines and kind of boundaries. So I just went to an event where they use this really good term called setting the container. So before any conversation, before any workshop, they would set the container and say, here are the ground rules. Everything that's shared here does not leave this group. If somebody is upset, like, you can just be there for them. They just set basically what your intentions and expectations and boundaries are there. So everyone knew, okay, we're all here, there's some safety here, we're all on the same page. So those two things, thinking about how can you create more intimate and private experiences, which may be offline, right? Bring your online community offline for a moment, have them really connect deeply, and then use online as a place to continue that engagement. And then also think about what kind of guidelines can you create that will make everyone feel safe being open and honest with each other.
Yeah. Fully agree. I have 2 additional tips. So first of all, I think that David mentioned that like having all the settings and kind of like the right framework. What we've seen a lot is that people create one main group that is kind of like the bigger group with a lot of people. And then they create a subgroup and they ask people like that want to be more involved, more open to join that. So basically you get only the people that are already agreeing to a specific code of conduct and to openness to join it. Just as an example, we kind of have our champions group, and then we have our better together group or our support group. And just by framing that this way, they feel more open to one another. Second tip is to actually sometimes by knowing who are your different members, by really understanding and seeing their profile, you can sometimes just go and like ping someone and say, hey, I know that you had that issue before. Do you feel comfortable sharing your experience? And by helping them this way, kind of like by pinging that, like they kind of like feel that they have your back and they will reply to it specifically.
Awesome. We have a very straightforward question here from Andy Sullivan. This is probably for you, Sharon. He's asking, do the Prezi experts get paid?
Yeah, definitely. So they have specific programs. I'm not aware of all of the different settings with them, but some of them are getting referral fees, and some of them are basically it's just on based on like shared marketing leads, etc. HubSpot have similar programs as well. I honestly think that like maybe you're not asking it this way, so but Carrie, you kind of like said it. This is a very upfront question. Sometimes it's kind of like scary to think about your community as like a partnership relationship, but if both sides are gaining from it, then why not? Like if you think about the Prezi individuals, the freelancers and agencies, or the HubSpot individuals, those are not usually like the most easy to find leads, kind of like jobs that you can have. So by building that partnership, they empower each other. And I think that that's how we need to think about our communities. How do we always empower our members and our partners and create like a win-win situation?
I love that. So Mark Siegel asks, how does Mobilize incorporate existing networks like LinkedIn or Facebook or even Lithium?
Yeah, exciting. So what we've seen is that while you have a lot of like really public, like even Facebook groups, etc., when you have a lot of public groups, these are great for discovery. So on LinkedIn, on Facebook, etc., on Meetup, people can find you. But then when you want to create a much more robust outreach to them, or when you want to create a member directory and to know who are the people and to create kind of robust profiles of them, or to reach out to them by email, by SMS, etc., by event invites, that's kind of like where those platforms stop helping. And that's why we integrate in a way that you can basically share the registration form on your public groups and get more and more people to sign up, and they know the separation between basically Mobilize and these groups. They kind of like see it as an ongoing workflow. We also have an API, we have a Zapier integration that enables you to kind of like link all of your communities in a way that is seamless.
Yes, integrations are so important, so important. All right, let's see. Next question from Jamie Irwin. I'm thrilled to check out Mobilize more for our brand ambassadors. We're looking for a better way to assign and follow up on events. Can you talk a little bit about how Mobilize helps facilitate event planning with our community members?
Yeah, definitely. Thank you. We're excited you will check Mobilize. So what we've done on Mobilize is that once you have your member directory set up and you can start an event, you can decide who do you want to invite to the event. So for example, maybe you want to create an event only in your region, right? Maybe you're in New York and you say, I'm getting into New York. I want to meet only our brand ambassador in New York. You can easily filter, find the people in New York, send them a meeting invite. The unique thing that we've done with our events is that we haven't built it like an Eventbrite or Splash that. We really just said, you already have the relationships. You need to know that they RSVP'd. So whenever you're sending an event for Mobilize, it actually sends it also to their calendar. So it goes into their calendar, they RSVP. Let's say a week later, they saw it doesn't work and they deleted it from your calendar, you will know about it. And that's basically kind of like a way for you to always go to Mobilize, see exactly who RSVP, who saw my event, who didn't see it, who said maybe. And then on Mobilize, you can also go and say, everyone that said yes, I want to follow up, to send them a quick text message with where is the right parking nearby. I want to reply to all the ones that said maybe or no, and a week later send them the video or send them like a new invite for a new event. You have this ability to track, follow up, and always be more on top of like really in control of like who's coming and who's not, which is a major challenge today.
Awesome. I'm going to skip ahead here, throw a question to David. Louisa Drubsky asks, how can I increase the retention of a community without investments in swag or money or prizes or things like that? I don't have a lot of budget to invest, and I need to improve the number of active members in my freelancer community.
So I don't think not having a huge budget for that kind of stuff should hinder you. Like we built a CMX community on a free Facebook group over time, right? We actually made money if you consider that like we hosted a conference and that brought in revenue. So if you really shouldn't need swag and things like that to motivate people. I actually recommend using that more to surprise and delight people who are already engaged. But if you give someone swag in hopes that that's going to motivate them to participate, that's an extrinsic motivation, an extrinsic reward, and that's not going to build up that intrinsic motivation. So you really need to craft the community in a way that makes them intrinsically motivated to want to participate in that community. And the way you do that, I think, is starting small, right? You may have a group already, but what are you doing to facilitate the interactions between those people? How are you starting to form the bonds of those relationships? I share that really quick idea in the webinar today of how to launch a new community using that engagement cycle. So just identify a core group of people that you believe should be kind of your founding members or the core members of this community. Start by talking to them if you haven't already, and share your goals. Say like, we have this vision for this community. We believe it can bring all this value to people. What do you think? Do you think this community would be valuable? What should it do? How should people participate? Get them really invested in it, because if they're invested in the process, then they'll be much more likely to contribute to see it actually succeed. And then bring them together, maybe in person, maybe online, and facilitate those interactions. Like Sharon just explained, a really good way to do that is ask them. Like if you see someone post a comment or a question, email 3 people that you know might have a good answer to that question and say, hey, I know you have experience with this. You're the expert that I know in this space. Would you mind jumping in there and helping out? And what you're doing there is you're creating the example so that the next time a member comes in and has a question, they see there's a good question, there's 3 good answers. Now I know if I post here, there's a good chance I'm going to get good answers too. And you're just kind of facilitating it, putting in that legwork. It's a lot about you, the community builder, being consistent, being present, continuing to put energy into it, and letting that build over time out from that core foundation that you're starting now.
Excellent. Nishay Khan asks, for Sharon, when we speak about empowering communities and taking their input, this sometimes leads to overcommitting and under-delivering from the members. Is there a way to re-motivate and engage such community members?
Yeah, great question. So I think it goes back to your mission and vision. I would take an example of like product communities. Product communities are the one that are definitely like giving you feedback about your product, but then asking you for a lot of stuff, and you can find yourself bombarded with like feature requests. Now the question is like, how open are you with them? So for example, as I said, we had our mobile beta product community, and obviously we've got like tons of requests of like when this is coming up, when this is coming up, etc. What we've done is that we reply to them very honestly. This is the priorities. First of all, we want to build all the features for your members. Then we want to build more features for you as admins. So we kind of like shared with them the goals that we have, because those are goals that they shared with us. So this way we show them our priorities. We kind of said like, we get all of your feedback, we get all of your requests. Let's make you product managers for a moment and show you how we prioritize. So by sharing your vision, by sharing your mission statement, you kind of like are enabling them to understand how do you make decisions. And that's how you also empower them to, like, you also enable them to identify with you. And maybe they don't agree with it, and that's totally fine. And then you will rethink your priorities, but at least you learn and you're open with them.
Excellent. Emily Randall asks, how do you suggest testing whether your audience wants to actually be in a community? And I'll throw this one to you, David.
Yeah, it's a good question. The first answer is everybody wants to be in a community. If they don't want to be in yours, it's because it hasn't solved the problem for them yet, or created that like center of gravity that draws people in and makes them want to be included. Maybe they're already finding a sense of community in the same exact topic somewhere else. Maybe it's less necessary, but if you create like an amazing group that has high quality people and content, they're going to want to be a part of it. So the question is not if they want to be in a community, but what are the things that you can provide that's actually going to bring value to them and draw them in. So treating community just like any other product that you want to prototype and try and experiment. What are the simplest ways that you can start to experiment with? If we curate these people with these boundaries, with this specific intention, will they find value in it? Will they want to come back? You can do that without launching a single tool. You can do that with a dinner or brunch or a happy hour. You can do it with a online conversation. Get everyone in a Zoom meeting and all get together and just have a conversation. Just start to bring those people together with the intention, the vision, the purpose that you have in mind for the community, and just and collect their feedback afterward. And like I said, ask for how you can improve the community, get them invested in what it should create. Like the first step is just get on the phone with 10 of them and say like, I think this should exist in the world. What do you think? Right? And start there. And you'll learn very quickly where are they feeling a sense of isolation? Where are they feeling a sense of exclusion? Where are they seeking that belonging that they're not able to find now? And if you can identify that and then empower them to contribute to shaping the community, they're going to want to be a part of it.
Excellent. Anything you want to add to that, Sharon?
I think sometimes it's also, I will take it to the tactical way to look at it. So David is talking about how to, like, why they don't want to be in your community and how can you change it. How to identify that people don't want to be in your community. It's all about engagement rates. It's all about how many people unsubscribe. Like, you can track how many people do you have and how many people are you losing. And I'm kind of like taking the analytics approach that I have as for running a business. But like, if customers or if users are churning, then you need to be tracking that, and you need to reach out with, like, we reach out to people later, like, and ask them, okay, why not? Why didn't you like that? So as David said, like, reach out to them, ask them, have specific questions. Other ways to track that is maybe you're posting something and not a lot of people reply to you. If this is a specific call to action, like share something or come to our event, etc., and you see low participation, try to understand, is this just because it's far, it's hard, it's a strong, like, high level commitment ask, etc., or are they just not that interested? And again, you can see that in the numbers, and then reach out and figure out why and change it according to what David said.
Excellent. I think we have time for maybe one, maybe two more. So from Andy Sullivan, we're considering having a community for paid members for our SaaS product. If people already have to create an account for the site, should they fill out a separate and unique form to enter the community? Won't that create a barrier to people engaging in the community? I'll let you answer this one, Sharon.
Yeah, okay. So I have we have two channels that you can take. First of all, simple one, SSO is coming out. So my dev team will now feel stressed because this is the next release. But single sign-on is a simple way to make it seamless. That's coming up like in actually very, very soon right now. And then second thing, and that's coming all the way to the way that we designed our platform. So as I said, I've been running political and volunteer communities. So I don't think that there is anything harder than like getting a volunteer community running, because you basically are talking to people that have other day jobs. They are volunteering their time, their energy. And the last thing you want to do is to add another call to action, like log in to here to see what I'm asking you and to participate. So that's the mindset that we had when we built in the platform. And that's why I think that a lot of people before Mobilize used Google groups and Facebook groups, because they kind of like said, wherever people are, I just want them to stay there. That's why when we build a platform, we basically say, you should just opt in your people, upload your spreadsheet, connect your API, whatever you want, create the database, and you can immediately start talking with them through email, through SMS, wherever they are. They can see your message, they can reply and engage. And that also goes to the less technical and tech-oriented type of members, like that don't want to learn a new platform. So we kind of like made it easy for them. So you have two options, either to make it seamless for them or to never ask them to log in.
Awesome. It is 12. Do you have another minute or two to just answer? There's one or two more questions here we might just go over, and we'll send everybody the recording afterwards. Is that okay? Okay. There was one question here from Erica Brown. She's just wondering about if there are any standards for really good member engagement rates in community. Sort of what I told her is that setting your own benchmarks is really important, but is there any more kind of color you can add to that answer?
David, do you have something, or like, do you want me to?
Yeah, I mean, real quick, what we usually recommend is don't compare your success or failure to other communities, because there's too many variables, like the age of the community, the maturity, the industry, the platform, the member types. Like there's so many variables, so it doesn't make sense to say like, oh, that community had this much activity. Rather, like Carrie said, look at your own benchmarks and then look at how can you improve that over time. There are some general rules, so just understand that there's going to be a very small percentage of your members that are going to contribute the largest amount of content. You have the 80-20 rule, which says 20% will create 80% of the content. You have the 99-1 rule, which says 1% will create, 9% will respond, 90 will just consume. They're not really rules, but rather just, I think, a good reminder that there's going to be a small amount of people creating the most content. I don't know if you had anything.
Yeah, I think just to highlight one thing that's kind of like you said here is also really all about the activity that you want them to take. So if your community is all about people should talk to one another and should share best practices, then that's the one thing you need to focus on, and don't care about other metrics. If your community is all about going out there and promoting you on social media, or building events, then you just need that one action to be really successful once a month or once a week, whatever your cadence is. For example, we see communities that are really successful on getting everyone to take the action that they want. They get like 75% open rates for every message that they send, and 50% and more reply immediately. However, they don't really care if people see their general updates or if people engage with one another. So it's really up to you to prioritize what do you care more. And that's, by the way, also the moment in which you decide what do you want to share more, because you have obviously high or low attention span from people, and you need to kind of like prioritize what you're sharing and asking them to do. Same as David, I don't think that there is one number. But obviously you can also see what is your top performing thing and then to benchmark according to it.
Excellent. So one more question. Any tips on managing members who can be a little bit too loud or vocal or might take up too much of the quote unquote room in your community? I'll let you decide amongst yourselves who wants to tackle that.
David has a lot what to say. Like
Yeah.
he's like the perfect moderator. So go ahead.
I don't know about that.
I've been moderated by you for so many times. Yeah.
Yes, Sharon has suffered the wrath of my moderation.
Which I respect. Yeah.
Yeah, well, so there's a bunch of things. This one is always an interesting one because it's not about moderation necessarily in the same way. It's not like this person's breaking a rule or a guideline or something that they're doing wrong. It's just like they're really taking up a lot of that space and energy, which maybe removes room from others. Usually, if you're worried about this, I'm getting maybe that like the quality of that interaction isn't always the highest. So maybe there's sometimes language barriers, or they just don't quite understand the culture of the community, and if they're very vocal, that can change it. I try to be transparent. I think the best thing you can try to do is harness that energy, because it's a great thing, right? The fact that somebody wants to be that engaged and that involved in your community is amazing. If you can harness that and kind of redirect it or help them guide it in a more positive way, then that can be a really valuable asset. And you want to support this person too. So I would usually reach out personally in a private message. If possible, get on a call. The more intimate and the more personal it can be, the better, because then there's no like misconstruing what you're trying to say. You can just actually have a conversation and just be honest and say, look, like, you've been an amazing member of this community. We're like really, really grateful for all your contributions. I want to make sure that this community is as healthy as possible, and I want to make sure you can get the most out of it. So I just had some feedback on maybe some ways that you can rethink or improve how you're contributing to this community so that you can get the most value out of it and that you're contributing in the best way possible. So really making it about not just helping you or not just helping the community, but helping them, and make it about being proactive and just being transparent, and let them know, like, there are some things that, like, I think you maybe don't realize that some members of the community perceive things in a negative way, or they don't enjoy it, and I just want to communicate that to you so that you're fully aware, and just approach it from that transparent standpoint.
So David, if I can like translate it into like a practical thing that you're doing. So for example, from the training perspective, sometimes people don't go and read the guidelines up front, but if you sometimes send once a month or every quarter, like a reminder of all the guidelines, and you kind of like put them into quick sound bites. So it's easier to remind everyone what this is all about. I think that's basically part of also reminding all the members what this is all about. So small tips of like reminding people of your training, your guidelines.
Yeah.
Excellent. That's it. Oh, did you want to add to that, David, before we wrap up Q&A?
Yeah, one thing that just came up was you can be strict about the quality of content in your community too. So if you don't have guidelines and you see people posting things that you don't think are quality, you can add instructions or guidelines that are like, don't just post a link without adding context and explaining to the community why this link is valuable to them. Don't just have like one-word answers, right? You can make whatever rules you want. It's your space, and if it's with the intention of improving the quality of the experience for everyone in your community, that's not a bad thing to do. It's a balance. You don't want to be overbearing and over-controlling, so where you're not giving people freedom of voice and expression. But you can curate the kind of experience that you want, and like I said, set the container for how people should expect to act and how they should expect others to act in your space.
All right, those are all the questions. Ready to wrap up.
Awesome. Well, thanks everybody. Thanks, Carrie, for helping us get this thing running and managing all the questions. And thanks so much, Sharon, for joining us and sharing all your wisdom.
Thank you, David, for hosting us and for this great, for sharing all of your insights. It was great to combine those.
Have a great rest of your week, everyone. Take care. Keep building amazing communities.
Yay.
Bye, guys. Thank you.
Bye.
Bye.